sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union. Oh, you can't scare me. I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union till the day I die. This Union maid was wise in the tricks of company spies. She couldn't be fooled by a company stool. She'd always organize. She always got her way. When she struck for higher pay, she'd show her card to the company guard, and this is what she'd say. Oh, you can't scare me. I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union. Oh, you can't scare me. I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union till the day I die.
Must unite, like Mother Jones, move those folks to the front of every fight. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union. Oh, you can't scare me, I'm sticking to the Union. I'm sticking to the Union till the day I die.
Waiting for Steve.
Oh, is that recording?
Yeah. He said they were playing some recordings.
That's so great. That was the one who did.
Uh-huh. Anybody know where Steve is?
Probably in the bathroom.
He was getting a dashiki, I think.
Then we go out. Then we go and get Sorry, Susan.
Welcome union members.
Welcome union members. Welcome union members.
That's okay, a good relay. Welcome union.
Welcome union members.
Welcome, union members. We are in your presence. Hand in hand together, we make the union strong. Welcome, union members. We are in your presence. Hand in hand together, union strong. We are filled with power, mobilized to organize, conquerors and counselors. We shall not be moved. We are filled with power, mobilized to organize, conquerors and counselors, we shall not be moved. Bienvenidos todos, los sindicalistas. nuestro unión. Bienvenidos todos los sindicalistas, démosnos la mano y fuerza en nuestra unión. Estamos llenos de poder para organizar y defender derechos conquistados, no nos moverán. Estamos llenos de poder para organizar y defender derechos conquistados, no nos moverán. Welcome, union members. We are in your presence. Hand in hand together, we make the union strong. Hand in hand together, we make the union strong.
I see him walking towards us from outside. No, I see Steve walking in. No. Where he was. Yes. Take a look?
De colores.
De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. We did not come this far to give up now. Like days of old behind the freedom wall. I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now. I dreamed I saw Velma Hopkins last night. I said you died long ago. Then she said, no, I ain't dead. I came back 'cause I need you to know. She said I saw green through some time and let that flag go. She took that thing down, that slavery flag will not fly. And as long as folks have courage like that, I will never die. We did not come this far to give up now. Like days of old behind the freedom wall. I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now. I dreamed I saw Pete Seeger last night. I said you died long ago. Then he said, no, I ain't dead. I came back 'cause I need you to know. I saw the Puerto Rican people far to give up now. What days of old can freedom proud? I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now.
Good morning. What a beautiful day here at Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist congregation with the DC Labor Chorus. All right. Welcome, welcome. Let us take a moment and welcome each other to this space, both in person and online. If you are joining us online, share your name in the chat.
It's nice that we get these live.
Everybody
Everybody, come on in this house. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Hello again. I'm Abhi Janamanchi. My pronouns are he and him, one of the ministers serving this religious community. I am a short, brown, cisgender Indian male in his 50s with dark hair and a graying mustache. And this morning I'm wearing a cream shirt with a burgundy vest and blue pants with a flaming chalice symbol on my vest. I welcome you to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community where love works. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your beliefs, your sexual orientation, gender identity, documentation status, and disability, and wherever you are joining us from, in person or at home, you are welcome in this house. A special welcome this morning to those of you who are new to Cedar Lane, and I see that we have a number of guests here in person and also joining us online. So if you are new or are still feeling new and feel comfortable doing so, would you raise your hand for a moment? Welcome, welcome. We have a small gift to appreciate your being here with us. Thank you for taking the time and taking a risk to join us for worship today. You're invited to complete a newcomer form that will be linked in the chat for those who are joining us from home. Also, we have those available here if you wish to become a part of our many happenings at this community and participate in those. And our weekly e-newsletter is a great way to stay updated about all the happenings at Cedar Lane. You can sign up for our newsletter on our homepage, cedarlane.org. And also, we are happy to welcome you on Sunday mornings here. Our pastoral visitors are an extension of our ministry team, and Barbara Tomar is our pastoral visitor here today. And we also have some of our visitors online. They're available to support you if you would like to check in with them. Thank you, Barbara, for your ministry. And also, if you are considering becoming a member of our religious community, please see me after the service, or you can email me, ajanamanchi@cedarlane.org, which is a great practice for you to remember to spell my last name. As we gather to worship, we acknowledge that Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist congregation is situated on the ancestral lands of the Nacotchtank people, part of the Piscataway group of tribes, and on the land on which enslaved African people and their descendants labored and lived without choice or reward. We honor with gratitude the land and the people who have labored and protected it through the generations. We gather in gratitude for all who have gone before us, whose love, labor, and sacrifice helped create and sustain the mission and ministry of this religious community. In this spirit, we gather. In this spirit, we begin. In this spirit, we worship.
Good morning. I'm David Devlin Foltz, the worship associate for today's service. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a short, white, heterosexual, cis male in my late 60s, wearing a dark polo shirt and tan cargo pants. I have brown hair and glasses. As Elise Bryant, the legendary director of the DC Labor Corps, comes forward to kindle the chalice, please share in the chat where you are lighting your chalice from. Please rise in body and or in spirit to share the chalice lighting words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our power, to seek with honesty, to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, to serve the spirit of justice in the fullness of community. Thank you.
This morning, we acknowledge the role of worship associates in our congregation. These are trained lay leaders who collaborate closely with the ministers and the worship team to develop, support, and help lead worship on Sunday mornings. Our worship associates make an important commitment to the congregation when they take on this task. They are, in a very real sense, representatives of our religious community and our faith as they learn more about the art of worship and lend their particular gifts, sensibilities, and their talents to the shared practice of worship. So today we dedicate and commission the worship associate team. But before we do, I'd like to recognize and thank Babs, who has been serving in this role for over 4 years for their service as a worship associate. Thank you, Babs. We're deeply grateful for the many gifts that Babs brought to our worship life, and we will miss their regular presence among us in the role as a worship associate. I'm sure they will still be attending worship and participating in other things, but we also believe that once a worship associate, always a worship associate. So they now join a growing assemblage of experienced and gifted worship leaders. We have 7 worship associates who are continuing to serve actively: Rajendran, Jessica Sawyer, Barbara Warman, Ezra Town, Melissa Reichley, Kimberly Clarkson, and Connor McCrickard. Those of you who are present, I invite you to come forward now and face the congregation. And joining them are our new worship associates, Mamaho Swedi Narasimhan, Shrikant Seshadri, Joe Del Sol, and our returning new worship associate, David Devlin Foles. Please come forward. Friends, on this day, we commission you as our worship associate team. We honor the important ministry you share and ask if you are ready to essentially sign away your life to fulfill your responsibilities of being worship associates for this new congregational year. If so, please say, "We are."
We are.
All right. And now would you share your affirmation? Would one of you lead us from the...
Why, sure. Ready, gang? All right. We commit to engage in this ministry with joy, openness, and integrity, upholding the values and principles of our Unitarian Universalist faith in celebration and service of life.
Thank you. In affirmation of your call to serve, we recognize and commission you with joy and gratitude. Offer your offering your gifts of creativity and authenticity, modeling commitment to our vision and mission, and joining the ministry team in the shared ministry of worship. May it be so. Thank you. Let's welcome them. There is honey in the rock for all God's children. We feed everyone today. We will have coffee at least afterwards to feed you today after the service, so we hope you will join us for some fellowship and conversation in the library, which is right to the back of the sanctuary to your left. So please join us. And speaking of coffee, this is an important Unitarian Universalist ritual of community and gathering that we do every Sunday, actually. But you see, the thing about coffee doesn't make itself. We would like it to, but it doesn't. And the hospitality ministry happens when people share in the hospitality. And so on this Labor Day weekend, when we are honoring, remembering, and celebrating labor, I call on my good friends at Cedar Lane to consider sharing your labor once a month on a Sunday to make some coffee and share some goodies. We are also actually looking at the possibility of creating another ministry, right, Lisa? Maybe. A ministry that is going to share scones on Sunday. So if that is what the Spirit is calling you, please do see Lisa. She would be happy to receive you and share with you ways in which we can share. I mean, this is how honey in the rock is made available to all God's children. Speaking of Labor Day, we have the Labor Day Parade in Kensington coming up tomorrow, where we get to walk and roll with the community. And we have quite a number of people signed up. I think last I checked, we had, over 30 Cedar Laners who are joining the parade tomorrow. We will be gathering at, where is that? On Pliers Mill. Wheatley, yes, Kensington residents, thanks for helping me out. I'm still new. Anyway, there is a sign-up that's being linked in the chat. If you're still able to, we would love to have you there. It'd be wonderful to be out marching tomorrow for a couple of hours. Also, as we begin our new congregational year, Sunday school registration is open for children 0 to 17. We encourage everyone to register their children and youth so that we're able to know who is going to be a part of our program this year. We have some exciting new offerings and continuing offerings for children of all ages. Our commitment as Unitarian Universalists is to nurture the holy curiosity and invite our children to be engaged in the questions as they prepare to learn to be spiritual beings in this country, in this world. And our program really tries to develop that, and it's a wonderful opportunity to do this. So we're also looking for people who can help us in that ministry of nurturing the holy curiosity. So if you're interested, please talk to me after the service, or you can email Reverend Dana, dedwards@cedarlane.org. And we prepare to start the new congregational year, though this feels like a good start this Sunday. We will restart it again next Sunday with our annual Ingathering service and water ceremony, which is a traditional UU ritual of ingathering. You're invited to bring a small container of water from your travels or your kitchen sink for this ingathering ritual. And it's going to be a wonderful service with our choir, with a story and readings and a short reflection and other things. It will be a wonderful service. And afterwards, we're going to have ice cream. So, you can skip the service and come for the ice cream, if that's what you would like. Let us now move into the space of naming and sharing the joys and sorrows of our community and beyond.
Each time we gather for worship, we set aside time to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the heart of this religious community. Within our Cedar Lane community, we offer our condolences to Carolyn Morrissey, who is mourning the loss of her father, William Graham Morrissey, who died on August 30th in North Carolina. He was 96. We rejoice with Bob and Helen Pakacek, who are celebrating the birth of their first great-grandchild, Cole Edward Pakacek, on August 27th, to Sarah and Andrew in Wakefield, Massachusetts. And Helen is here. You can congratulate her in person. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to others whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by war, violence, and calamities in our nation and in our world. Our hearts are with everyone in the midst of hurricanes, wildfires, floods, and record heat waves due to human-caused climate change. We lift up as well those who died in the tragic fire in Johannesburg, South Africa, emblematic of the dangerous conditions that unhoused and partly housed and poorly housed people endure in every country because of human-caused economic inequality. May these friends of ours, our companions in the world, and all the joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts be held in the embrace of silence. As we enter the silence together, you're invited to rise in body or in spirit and speak the names of the loved ones that you are holding in remembrance, or to share their names in the chat.
Pat Carlson.
In returning from silence, we ask that our hearts may be open to all whose names and faces have crossed our minds, and that the love we share be our abiding teacher.
May it be so. Each Sunday we give and receive an offering to sustain the mission and ministry of Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist congregation and in support of a community organization that shares our mission. The free will offering is a visible symbol that demonstrates our love, gratitude, and commitment to our religious community. It is an opportunity for us to witness not only to the good news of our Unitarian Universalist faith, but the many ways in which we seek to embody our faith within, among, and beyond. Today, our Share the Plate offering will support the nonpartisan interfaith organization Action in Montgomery, AIM, which is a multiracial, multi-faith community organization that is rooted in Montgomery County's neighborhoods and congregations. Since 2000, AIM has built citizen power by developing leaders and connecting individuals in our congregations, schools, and neighborhoods to work together to make our county and state a better place to live and thrive. AIM is now spearheading the formation of a statewide organization that will build power to create change for all Marylanders with their sibling affiliates in Baltimore, Howard County, Anne Arundel, and Prince George's County to take on the issues that impact Marylanders, including equity in education, police reform, jobs, the environment, affordable housing, and comprehensive regional transportation. At the same time, AIM will continue to make progress on local campaigns for our schools, affordable housing, police reform, tenant organizing here in Montgomery County, and is hiring a second bilingual organizer. Our participation as a congregation and our leadership in AIM as a founding member has contributed to AIM becoming a strong community organization that they are today. And some of our members who are on the AIM core team are here with us, Barbara Tomar, Diane Yonches, and others who are on the core team. Would you just rise for a moment so we may recognize and thank you for your efforts. Thank you. There are many opportunities to engage with the work of AIM and also to give generously today to support their efforts. So many ways to give, electronically or by check or placing your offering in the collection plate, however you choose to give and whatever you give. We are grateful for your generosity. Our offering will now be given and gratefully received. Encore, if you'd like. Thank you, members of the DC Labor Chorus, Dr. Elise Bryant and Steve Jones, for sharing your musical gifts with us. Thank you. Thank you. This has been an annual Cedar Lane tradition for us to mark Labor Day with the DC Labor Chorus, and what a gift it has been and continues to be. So this is Labor Day weekend, a time ironically set aside to relax and have fun in honor of labor. While the actual origins of Labor Day are somewhat fuzzy in our history, we know that Oregon was the first state to make it an official holiday in 1887. And we know that it became a federal holiday in 1894 after the Pullman strike. Not really to honor labor or the hard efforts of workers, but actually as a somewhat cynical attempt to mollify public outrage at how the U.S. government had colluded with the Pullman car company to put down the strike with violence and intimidation. We also know that the celebration of Labor Day in September, instead of May 1st, which is what I grew up with in India, is in part an effort to separate it from the socialist and communist origins of labor movements that observe May 1st as Labor Day in most other parts of the world. And in recent decades, we know Labor Day has come to be dominated by barbecues, picnics, last trips to the beach before the end of summer, mattress sales, rather than strident labor protests. All that good history. For me, however, Labor Day is tied up in my imagination with the song Bread and Roses, which is why I asked if the DC Labor Chorus would share that today. Originating in a poem by James Oppenheim that was published in the American Magazine in 1911, it is commonly associated with the textile strike at the Everett Mill in Lawrence, Massachusetts in 1912, led mostly by women and immigrants from around the world under the leadership of the industrial workers of the world. Now, the strike in Lawrence was sparked by a newly enacted Massachusetts law that reduced the work week of women and children from 56 to 54 hours. And mill owners retaliated by cutting the workers' wage proportionally by 32 cents. And these reduced wages were calculated as roughly 3 loaves of bread, giving the strike its other name. But for many of these workers, 32 cents was precious, making the difference between eating a meal or going hungry. That's how low wages were and how precarious life was for the working class. Now, at that time, Lawrence was known as the immigrant city. Workers in the mill were mostly immigrants from 20 different countries. And although these workers lacked common cultures and languages, they became united in a common cause when they went on strike. And the next day, more than 10,000 workers were out on strike. This was in January 1912, in the midst of a very harsh winter. Mill owners, of course, retaliated and violence ensued. The state militia was brought in to control the strike, joining with local police to attempt to brutally suppress the movement. Many women were beaten, hundreds were drenched with fire hoses in freezing temperatures, and 2 strike leaders, a man and a woman, were killed. Families had to transport their children to New York City to safety. Over 1,000 children left Massachusetts to go to New York, where they were welcomed with open arms. And when 46 children were being taken that day, the train station was flooded with police and barricaded, and children and women were beaten. So what did the workers do? Well, they responded by diversifying their tactics, including inventing the picket line, so that they could not be arrested for loitering. They organized some of the largest marches ever seen, thousands and thousands marching and bringing singing, chanting, and artful banners into the protests. One observer, Ray Stannard Baker, wrote in the American magazine, "Lawrence is the first strike I ever saw which sang. I shall not soon forget the curious lift, the strange sudden fire of the mingled nationalities at the strike meetings when they broke into the universal language of song. And not only at the meetings did they sing, but in the soup houses and in the streets." The national reaction to the strike was swift and visceral and marked a turning point. President Howard Taft, a Unitarian, asked his Attorney General to investigate, and Congress began a hearing. It was then that the country learned that 1/3 of mill workers whose life expectancy was already less than 40 years old at that time died within a decade of taking their jobs in the Everett Mill through respiratory infections such as pneumonia or tuberculosis from inhaling dust and lint, which was a slow death, or a more swift death from workplace accidents. Now, after 2 months, in March 1912, the strikers settled with the management and won pay increases, time and a quarter pay for overtime, and a promise of no discrimination against the striking workers. And not only did they win, but more than 250,000 workers in the state of Massachusetts eventually won similar rights. So the Lawrence strike came to be known as the Bread and Roses strike, for its particular emphasis on the humanity and the spirit of the workers rather than just their wages and their livelihoods. "Give us both bread and roses," chanted the women on the picket lines. Yes, we want restoration of the 54-hour week. Yes, we need more than $8.76 a week to feed our families. In other words, we want bread. We have to be able to live, but we want to live with dignity too. We want to know that we are more than just beasts of burden, more than just cogs in the capitalist machine. We want to be seen as human beings. We want roses too. So the claim, bread and roses, is not simply that we all enjoy those things that are part of our basic human needs, along with food, water, and shelter. That feeding our heart, our spirits, and our soul is essential to maintaining humanity for people in all socioeconomic conditions. That in the words of Jewish immigrant garment worker and women's suffrage activist Rose Schneiderman, who testified before Congress, we have the right to live, not simply to exist. And 52 years later, on August 28, 1963, nearly 250,000 people gathered in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., as part of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The march sought to address the conditions under which most African Americans were living at that time and to facilitate, and I quote, meaningful civil rights laws, a massive federal works program, full and fair employment, decent housing, the right to vote, and adequate integrated education. That was the purpose of the march. Not I Have a Dream, which was actually something that was added when Mahalia Jackson leaned over to Dr. King and said, Martin, tell them about the dream. And it was from a speech that Dr. King had given in Michigan the week before, which actually had bombed. It didn't go well. So he took that out, and he wasn't going to do that, and she just pushed him. A woman pushed Dr. King. I say that because there were no women who got to speak at the march. In fact, before Dr. King spoke, people like Rosa Parks and Lena Horne were escorted off the stage. Bayard Rustin, who was openly gay, was not allowed to speak. There were a lot of things that didn't happen at that march. But that's not the focus today, or doesn't take away the importance of what that march did to shape the history and destiny of the United States. I digress. Anyway, coming back. Today, more than 100 years later, American workers are putting in more hours than anyone in Europe, and our unions are more diminished in numbers, reputation, and clout than ever before. Today, our federal minimum wage is still at $7.25 an hour. It has been for the last 15 years, which is $290 for a 40-hour week, or less than $1,500 a month, on which somehow families are supposed to live. You know what the average income or median income in Montgomery County is? What is that? No, that's dated. It's $95,000. I think it may even be more now, closer to $100,000. Just saying. Many states, including Maryland, pay more, but many don't. So workers everywhere and across industries and occupations are demanding higher pay that keeps up with the skyrocketing costs of living. Not to make lots of money and buy into the American dream, but to just live and survive. So in June, over 3,000 Starbucks workers at 150 plus stores across the U.S. went on strike. And thousands of hotel workers went back on strike in LA, demanding higher wages and benefits. In July, workers at an Amazon center in Minnesota mostly Muslim East African immigrants, went on strike demanding humane working targets to reduce injuries, full-time instead of temporary working status, and fair opportunities for promotions. And then in Hollywood, as we all know, screenwriters have been on strike for nearly 4 months now, seeking better compensation and protections on the use of artificial intelligence. And unionized workers at UPS threatened a mass walkout before approving a new contract in July that includes increased pay and safety protections for their workers, including putting some air conditioning in their trucks. And the new leadership of the United Auto Workers is now demanding that the big three automakers give its members a 40% raise, over the next 4 years of its next contract, which stems from a 40% increase in compensation raked in by the corporation CEOs over the past 4 years. And it looks like they will be going on strike in the next few weeks. So friends, all this to say that today, more than 100 years later after the Lawrence strike, workers continue to demand and struggle for the same old issues: a living wage, affordable health care, a safer work environment, respect, and dignity. Bread and roses, life and dignity, justice and beauty. Bread and roses. It's a beautiful metaphor. Right, sister? It is. It is. It is also a pointer. And there are others that might help us to delve a little deeper into those places of what it is pointing toward. The poet Richard Blanco, in his poem One Today, for President Obama's second inauguration, points to something that's worth lifting up. He points to our interconnectedness and our interdependence through the work of our hands and the work of our hearts. He writes, "One sun rose on us today, kindled over our shores, and wakened us to pencil yellow school buses, silver trucks heavy with oil or paper, bricks or milk, teeming over highways alongside us on our way to clean tables, read ledgers, or save lives, to teach geometry or ring up groceries as my mother did for 20 years so I could write this poem. All of us as vital as the one light we move through, one ground, our ground, rooting us to every stalk of corn, every head of wheat sown by sweat and hands, hands gleaning coal or planting windmills in deserts and hilltops that keep us warm, hands digging trenches, routing pipes and cables, hands as worn as my father's, cutting sugarcane so my brother and I could have books and shoes. One sky, toward which we sometimes lift our eyes, tired from work, some days guessing at the weather of our lives, some days giving thanks. By our own work and by our abject need for the good work well done of other people, we are still bound in solidarity, each to each and each to all." Another pointer. At the end of his essay, The Fire Next Time, after exposing the dynamics of systemic racism in our country, James Baldwin asks the question, what shall we do with all this beauty? He reminds us that the greatest challenge in life is the challenge presented to us by the beauty of life, by what beauty asks of us, and by what we must do to keep faith with the beauty that has nourished our sometimes privileged lives. Baldwin's call is not a prophetic call to outrage and pity. It merely demands that the privileged not become the paternalistic. It is a call for all of us to come together before the sacred altar of beauty and be transformed by its gentle and fierce insistence that that which is lovely not be defiled. Now, Baldwin's question is important because we, friends, are living in some ugly times, in hot mess times. And I'm not going to spend my time this morning to engage in the litany of all the oppression, all the injustice, all the iniquity, the inequality, violence, hatred, and ecological devastation, because it is all too familiar, all too visible, right in front of us. But part of the ugliness is the ugly analysis that somehow claims that this crisis is caused by those who are oppressed and marginalized, by Black, Indigenous, people of color who demand opportunities for education and employment, LGBTQIA plus people who want to be fully participating citizens, women who want equality and control over their own bodies, immigrants and poor people who seek living wages and access to citizenship, and of course, progressives and liberals who encourage all this, right? This ugly analysis says that the cure is to make the poor fend for themselves, shut the borders on immigrants, eviscerate the social safety net, triple the defense budget, lock up more people, ban books, restrict healthcare access, and roll back reproductive rights. So, going back to Baldwin's question, what shall we do with all the beauty in these ugly times? The Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker responds, I believe that beauty confronts us with the requirement that we place ourselves among the saviors, the redeemers, the leaders in the protection of life. The ancient story of Moses and the burning bush tells us that once we have seen the bush on fire, once we have seen the beauty, we only have two choices. We either have to close our eyes to the beauty, or we have to go back to Egypt to set the people free. What choice would you make? Bread and roses, beauty and justice. This is our calling today. To see life's beauty and one another's beauty and respond with acts of love and courage, to strive for justice, to promote dignity, to defend freedom, to build the peace together. And that, friends, is the message of Labor Day, and that's also the good news of Unitarian Universalism. As we go marching in the beauty of the day, 1,000,000 darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses, for the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. So may it be. Amen. Let us welcome the DC Labor Chorus back for the Love Song Medley. Are we going to sing along, Sister Elise? All right. So, please rise in body and or in spirit to join the DC Labor Chorus.
injury to one is an injury to all. If you call me, I will come. I will catch you if you fall. Because alone we are weak. Together we stand tall. An injury to one is an injury to all. We are the voices of rebellion, the writing on the wall. We sing the songs of freedom, a witness to the fall. We bring you the love song from the liberation war. The songs that lead and remind us what we're fighting for. An injury to one. Injury is an injury to all. If you call me, I will come. I'll catch you if you fall. Alone we are weak. Together we stand tall. An injury to one is an injury to all.
When the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, he described a fierce urgency of now. He reminded a divided nation that we need one another and that we are stronger when we march forward together. He said, "We have come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism or go off and enjoy a barbecue." No, he didn't say that. I'm saying. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Friends, in the richest nation in human history, we have 140 million people who are poor, low wealth, or one healthcare crisis, one job loss, one storm, one wildfire away from economic ruin. We must rise up. When, because of the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, we have fewer voting rights today than we did 56 years ago, we must not cool off. When a climate crisis is wreaking havoc on the lives and livelihoods of people all over the world, we must not take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. So now is the time. We must organize and mobilize and sit in and rise up, not just for a weekend or a day, not just for a season, but until all people are housed, until all people are fed, until all people earn a living wage, until all have affordable health care, until our voting rights are protected and expanded, until all student debt is canceled, until air and water is clean, until all people are free to thrive, not just barely survive. So bread and roses shall be our call as we go forth together in solidarity forever.